show you some basic long line work with Beaver here. When he goes home, I'm definitely going to encourage you guys to focus way more on long line work than walking. He's really young, and young dogs really have a hard time paying attention. So I'm actually having great success walking him right now, but he needs to build a relationship with each one of you. And in that process, each one of you will need to start where we started in order to get him healing well with everyone. So it's going to be more beneficial for you guys to kind of start where we started. It'll come around a lot faster for you guys than it did for us because he's already trained, but it's the best way to basically mimic us and get where we are. See you, dude.
Yeah.
So I know Leah's gone over long line work with you, but I'm just gonna basically start the movements and kind of tell you what I see. So right now he is really concerned about my employee Hillary. Good job, bud. I didn't even say anything. And so, you know, our movements that we use during long line work are really important for the dog because, you know, body language is a huge part of what they read. So how we move on the long line is going to translate over to the dog. So I wanted to just, if you kind of rewind that video or think about it, the moment he erected everything on his body and went into that prey drive state of mind that I do know you guys are familiar with, you know, those erect ears and that high tail and that high level of concern, my first instinct was to actually walk out of his peripheral vision behind him. So he can't see me now, and this gives me access to basically assess a couple different things, right? So the first thing I can assess is if I back up and he doesn't automatically come with me, that's a really good indication that he's not with me and he's not aware of the fact that I'm no longer in the picture. So that's a very heightened stage of prey drive. So when I get this amount of disengagement, I am going to call him back. Come. Good job, Bucks. Here. Now when he comes back to me, he goes into pack drive. So it's one way to build pack drive is to actually kind of wait for him to go into a prey drive state like this and back up and call him. Come. Not only am I calling him out of prey drive, but when he comes all the way back to me, good job. Here, sit. And commits to me like this, I'm building his pack drive, right? So that's another reason why we back up like that. So the movements are going to be, there's going to be several, but when you see him kind of start to alert to something and get really locked onto it, the best thing that you can actually do is back up and give the line to him. And now, I didn't say anything. Good job, Bubs. So what that means to me is that it took him a second, but he wasn't as intense about his prey drive and was able to go, where's my handler go? So he did that all on his own. That's another huge incentive to try to build in the dog is that they are doing a lot of it on their own. So he's shooting off. Beaver, come. I'm only on a 6 right now. Good job, Bubby. Sit. So, when you're trying to do a good recall, again, when he shoots out, you're going to back up behind him. Give him a second. Say, Beaver, come when you don't get any engagement from him. Now, if I'm in a situation where he's being reactive or much more like he's pulling on the line or, you know, the intensity is higher, I'm not going to give him a second. I'm just going to call him right out of it immediately. So this is a pretty low level intensity situation that just happened. Let's go, buddy. You know, he was curious about Hillary, but he wasn't intense about it. He was intense enough about it at first to disengage with me, but the intensity was still very, very low. So my repetitions are definitely based on their intensity. The more intense, the quicker I am to give them direction. As their intensity decreases, I'm gonna start to see if they can make the choice on their own. And I love, let's go. I love to end activities where the dog chooses it on their own. It resonates more with the dog, and they become more trained because they're the ones making the decision. So that is one example of switching the drive. Really? Let's go. Let's go. Good. So that was a let's go, but you'll notice if you really pay attention to the way I move, I back up more than I just, what I see a lot of people do when they are doing long line work is they'll see their dog disengage and they'll just do this. Let's go. I don't like to do that. I like to see the dog and I like to see what they're doing. So I'm more inclined to back up, come, and wait for the commitment. Sit. So if I'm doing a recall, I like to back up and get the full commitment. And when I'm doing a let's go, what I'll do is I'll back up and I'll wait to get the commitment. Let's go. And then I'll turn and go. All right, so that's the difference between Beaver come and let's go. Hi. Being really good, buddy. Let's go. Good. So I'm gonna do a couple, I'm just gonna continue to kind of change directions and kind of give you more examples of those two commands. So he's disengaging. Let's go. I wait till he commits, then I turn my back and go. Good job, bud. That's a let's go. Recall, I'm gonna back up, stand my ground. Beaver, come. Good job, Bubs. Come. Sit. And this is a recall. Go. So both of them are going, your steps are going to be to back up out of his peripheral vision. That's going to be your physical motion. Let's go. But the let's go is a casual follow me, whereas Beaver come is you're going to come all the way over to me and sit. And right now we do here sit. So that's the next set of motions I'm going to show you, okay? Beaver, come. Good job, Bubs. So let's say I say sit, and this is just a sit, right? Here is heel. You know what heel position looks like. Usually everyone does, right? So if I want to get him back into the here position, I'm actually going to take a step back like this and say, here. Right? And when I take a step back, the dog almost follows my left leg, right? They're almost following this motion. Their body will turn with my leg, and as they square off with me like... Sorry, my video, I got a phone call. Whenever I get a phone call, the video cuts out. So again, they really, he understands the commands, he understands the e-collar, but he also understands body language. It's actually quite phenomenal to watch him because I can actually do... When his intensity level is low, I can actually do a lot of these things without command, without leash pressure, or without e-collar pressure because he actually understands all the body language behind it. So if I want to, again, I want to get him into a here position, I'm going to say, Beaver, here, my left leg swings out. As he squares off with me, my left leg comes in. Go. I get so annoyed by how much traffic my property has. All right, so if I will repeat this over and over and over again. place that I've ever worked, the dog really struggles with this commitment. They really don't like to hear for their owners. And my whole thing is, your expectations will determine whether or not the dog will commit to that level, right? So if your expectation is that this is a here, then that will be his expectation. Our expectation is that this is a here, and so he understands that that's what he has to do when he hears that command in order to move on. So if I don't get it, so let's say I say here, and this is all Beaver can do for me, I'm going to take another step back and ask for it again. And then I'll do this, here. And then if he blows me off, I'll take another step back and I'll ask for it again. Now he's really good at this for me. See, he does it automatically on his own. And part of the reason for that is because my expectations, and the other reasoning behind that is because he is amazing about body cues. That's why I'm going over this in the video. He has really learned that all these little cues physically represent something, a form of communication in his mind. So if you guys are adding your commands and your e-collar and all this other form of layering, that's great and it's beneficial in the long run. But some of these physical motions that I'm getting myself into can also help impact better results. Good job, buddy. Let's go. He's being awesome. So I'm going to start tying this together. See, I go backwards. Now he did that on his own. Now let's see what he does if I just go. Good job. Come up here. So I didn't say anything. No e-collar, no leash, no nothing. That was all just physical motions. He's low level intensity right now, so I can show you that. If my employees were out or a dog was out or something more exciting, I would be using the e-collar a lot more because obviously he's still very excited about those things. Let's go. Now if Beaver, if you want him to get into a here position, come. Yeah. Now watch this here. No e-collar. Good job, Bubs. Just a second ago when I asked him to hear, he put himself all the way back here, like way far back, right? So I'm always kind of doing the opposite the dog wants to do. So if he's going to say, no, I don't want to commit to that level, I'm actually going to fall all the way back here behind you out of sight, then I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to take a step forward and say, here, good job, bud. Come. So he moved forward, so I'm going to take a step back here. Sit. Now if he had fallen back, I would have taken another step forward. So I need to create some movement to gain positioning sometimes. Beaver, come. I know, you're bored, huh? You're like, this is not what I want to do. This is not my style. But these physical motions that I'm explaining to you are going to help him. It's just going to be basically add to all the layering of information. Out, good. Come. It's just going to add to the layering of information here that we're already providing for him. So it doesn't hurt to have multiple forms. Let's go, buddy. Multiple forms of information for a dog. If they can learn to read your voice, the e-collar, and your body language, then we now have a dog who's programmed to listen whether they go deaf or blind when they're older. And trust me, I have a deaf dog and a blind dog, so I wish I would have known about this 10 years ago when I first trained them, because I struggle with them more not having this level of training at an early age to where they struggle a little bit more with their senses. The dogs that are newer in my pack have been trained via this method, so they're going to be set up to where if they lose their senses when I'm older, I'm still going to have all of the access to their brain by using all of these different forms of communication to basically reinforce what I'm asking of the dog. Let's go. So now you've got command, like the basic commands during long line work. I don't have a place board out here right now. That's another command. All the basic commands. Some of the movements involved. I don't don't have my e-collar speaker box out right now, so we'll have to do that another session. But now I'm just going to use everything I just discussed to continue to move him out of prey drive and into pack drive. And there's a lot of movement in long line work. Let's go. Especially with a dog as high prey drive as him. Let's go. So I pay attention to him. You know, where is his brain at? Let's go. And I like to disengage with him when I see that he's disengaged with me. Beaver, come. Hi. You're tired. We might need to wrap this up, huh? Here? Here? Good. Good. Let's go. Let's go. Good. Let's go. One more thing that I do physically. Beaver, come. Is I stop a lot. So I oftentimes will stop to test the dog. Now, on top of all this movement, I pause a ton when I train a dog. Every time I pause, it gives me an opportunity to see just where that dog's brain really truly is. Let's go. So if I stop, let's go, buddy. If I stop and he wanders off like that, it's very obvious to me that he's not with me. Let's go. So it gives me an opportunity to redirect him out of prey drive and back to his handler where we need his center of focus to be. Now I am basing this video off of turning him the second he disengages. That's what a lot of this video is about. Let's go. He's tired this session. Hi. Hi. But you don't have to turn just because he's disengaged with you. Sometimes I just turn because it does make them think more. So it doesn't have to be only because they've disengaged with me. It can be turning just to turn is beneficial for a dog at this phase of training. Beaver, come. What's nice about this activity, come, here, sit, is that it doesn't require a lot of space. Let's go. You can do this in your driveway, your backyard, the street out in front of your house. It doesn't have to be much, and as you can tell from him, the mental stimulation is enough to wear them out. Come, sit. So let's go. I'm keeping the brain engaged instead of disengaging, which is much harder for a dog, especially a puppy, to do than to just go on a walk. You know, walks don't challenge the brain nearly as much as direction change and switching drives challenges them. Come. Now, the other side of this, here, here, sit. Good. The other side of this is that, here, this is how you build relevancy. So, if you think about it, you know, he has a very high prey drive, so he has a lot of tendencies to shoot out and investigate and sniff. And one of the things I like about long line work is that because I'm not walking and I'm not looking for this like very formal heeling position the whole time, which eventually we will expect him to do, it gives him an opportunity to explore and be a dog as well as listen. Let's go. Good job. But in the process, in this process, you're kind of giving him the best of both worlds. Like, I get to stop and sniff for a second, but I'm also learning that these things aren't really as significant as my handler. And through that constant direction change, he really starts to realize that the handler is super relevant and powerful because they have access to his brain. So it's kind of a win-win. So the more you turn, the more you pay attention to what drive he is in and redirect it, and then basically repeat, the more he's going to start giving you eye contact, being more willing to please, and really in general just a much higher level of attentiveness where you'll start to see him actually start to direction change and tune in more on his own and less because he's actually been told to do so. Let's go. Good. Like, see, that was not command oriented. So he's tired now. And since his intensity is lower, I know that I can get away with this, but this is kind of the goal where, you know, his instinct is still to hunt, but because I've spent a lot more time this session bringing out his prey drive instead of bringing out his pack drive instead of letting him remain in prey drive for too long, you start to get a natural tendency of the dog to start really tuning in and paying attention to where it is you're going to be turning. So that's my spiel. I've got a lot more up my sleeve. I know some of this is probably repetitive, but I kind of wanted you to just see the motions, the commands, the timing of everything, and also how well he's doing, because I think he's actually doing really, really well. You know, we have to make sure we understand that this dog is very young and his attention span is going to be low. I think his attention span and his ability to remain calm is actually better than a lot of dogs his age. So, you know, we have to match our expectations with the dog in front of us, and I think he's doing excellent. And I hope that you saw the same thing that I see.